Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another scene set in the Justice of the Dark Crusade Season 2. Tonight, we set the scene with, help me pronounce this name properly,
Khadija?
Khadija Al-Samad.
Assamite. It's a AH sound, not AL.
Oh,
So
good to know.
Khadija Assamite.
I've been butchering the pronunciation of like a quarter of this game's characters.
Funny, I had somebody else tell me. So
yeah. So, yay. Linguistics level up. Yes. Khadija has been new to the city, having just recently introduced herself to the prince. Expected. The Assamites had announced that they were receiving reinforcements given the deaths of many of their warriors, and the praxis war being started. And Khadija has arrived just slightly late to the party, or perhaps in the thick of it, depending on the interpretation. As she is due to meet with her many clanmates, including some of whom have also only recently arrived. The warrior caste in particular, of which there are currently only two in the city, one having died, and another who was meant to be only here temporarily also being assassinated in the same ambush. You will meet these Assamites within the library. It's a large library set in the Jewish Quarter. It has been kept open for you. There is no one but a ghoul inside. And you see shelves upon shelves of books that are actually chained to the shelves in question. Their spines inexorably tied to the timber. And that is where you are. Do you also come in and obfuscate or not?
she would have been obfuscated for much of her travel there. Even to go as far as to mask her aura as well.
Okay.
Just in case. But once she gets closer into the territory for the library, she would approach, but make sure that she's not being followed or anything like that, or just wait a few minutes to make sure everything's kind of like okay. Like, she's new here, so she's not too terribly like quick to rush into anything. But even still, like, this is her own clan. So I mean, after a minute or two, she will go in
Okay.
and enter the library. Was there I couldn't hear. Did you say was there anybody in here?
There is a ghoul librarian.
And she will make sure she makes herself available to him. Like, she's not going to like just obfuscate off in front of him.
Okay. Upon seeing you, then the librarian will walk up to you and say, I assume you are the third guest.
And she has a very thick Arabic accent. She just says, "Yes, I've arrived. Yes." She looks around. It's interesting, this setup.
This this setup, as you referred to it, exists at the behest of Primogene and the other vizier. I hope it is to your tastes. The other warriors among us have already arrived. If you just wish to take a seat there, they will reveal themselves to you.
She will opt to stand, probably where I guess a seat is offered. She doesn't seem too interested in sitting. In fact,
Okay.
she basically just kind of cross her arms over like her chest, so to speak.
Okay. As you approach and just cross your arms, the two figures will slowly begin to come into view. First, um, very transparent, then into translucency, then completely solid. And I'll be these two. A weathered but youngish looking man, and another a rather live, young looking woman with an elaborate lower face mask and tattooing across part of her face.
When they finally show up, Khadijah herself will remove like the cloth around her face and wrapped around her forehead, and kind of herself reveal a lithe um uh and very average height female, um with rather dark features and like yeah, with some beginning to be, some showing that Assamite darkness to her that's starting to take hold.
Yeah, it should be noted the face of the woman is very dark at this point. Not quite ebony black, but edging closer and closer to it. It's You would say it's closer to ebony than not.
Hmm.
Um, uh, the man, however, retains most of his human complexion, but much like herself, it is beginning to take hold now.
And once they arrive, I mean, she doesn't have to guess that they're Canite, because I mean, there no other people are gonna like just melt into real life in front of you.
No. Unless they're a mage, or a
Right.
Ragabash, or a changeling. Never mind.
And then
It's fine.
she would just say, "I believe introductions are in order. I am Khadija Asamat. I am a Ancilla. My sire is Tahir, the sheriff of Talgoram. I assume that you are probably familiar with him. It is good to see some fellow comrades here of the same caste." I understand that there seems to be some recent troubles as of late, and well, the eldest has seen fit to make sure that I come here to help bolster our number here.
No one speaks. Well, we are glad to have you. I'm Layla Rahimate. This is, well, I'm sure he'd be more than happy to introduce himself. And he'll simply say, I am Husam Adil. Neonates of the warriors, but not for much longer.
Glad that your ascent seems to be on the rise. It is good to meet both of you, comrades, especially one so venerated as yourself, Layla.
Actually, you can roll me a clan lore check if you want.
Clan lore.
Oh, I need to set up Discord. Why do I always forget this on the laptop?
Which dice roll you want to be in? I'll just go in one.
One sec.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
What dice roll is this?
1.
No. Oh, you didn't know. Okay, cool. You're about to step on my pet peeve when I was going to die inside. Well, that many successes. Yeah, you know Layla is second, look up her specifically. But you know she's an elder. And a decently powerful one. If she get a lot of successes, you know where she's descended from. You don't know if she's actually dropped her generation since then. But she was originally sired by 7th generation Assamite. She's also known to be a bit of a deviant from Assamite norms. She is not inducted into the Web of Knives. She has no desire to be a part of Web of Knives. Actually, has stated quite open opposition to them. She does not trust Web of Knives a single bit. You know that Husam Adin is very much a member of Web of Knives. But yeah, she's a fairly young elder, but a powerful one, and a fairly well diversified one. She's known to be a bit of a theologian on top of her mastery of killing and assassination.
You said theologian?
Theologian, yeah.
Okay.
She's got a bit of a vizier in her. Yeah, she's a bit of an odd warrior. She doesn't fit into the stereotypes of warriors. She is notably not on the road of blood. People have tried to convince her. She has rebuffed them every time.
That's fair. Warriors take many different avenues, so it's not uncommon. A little strange, but not uncommon.
What's your successes? You got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, you got 5 successes, so I'll actually tell you what road she's on. You know that she is very much a staunch defender of her own humanities. A rather odd choice for an assassin.
Yeah. That might be interesting later on, but for just meeting her, yeah. It
As
sounds
a
like,
result, yeah. As a result, she is known to pick her targets extremely carefully and does not generally abide by um, she doesn't tolerate mercenary behavior in her presence
you said
or
mercenary.
casual assassination, casual killing.
Gotcha. Funny enough, Khadijah's not one for casual killing either, but
Yeah. As for Hussein ad-Din, he's not particularly noteworthy, but you know he is quite a successful assassin. Has already dropped a generation for reclamation of a particularly arrogant, pompous venture. Although little is known about his victim. Um, a noted member of the Web of Knives. Fairly old, neonate. His main quirk is that he had a mortal brother who got embraced into the clan just a few decades later, which was Al-Qadir.
she would recognize the name because of a previous meeting with Al-Qadir, in which she had um, in which Al-Qadir had mentioned that his brother had arrived into the city as part of the new reinforcements into the city. And she would say unto him, and as for you, man, I forgot his name already, but she would just say, I met your brother, Al-Qadir, a few nights past. He seems to be a sorcerer of some renown and of capability that he has proven to me in person.
Hmm. Oh, perception empathy. Because that is his reaction.
Alrighty then. Let's see. Perception, empathy. 3.
3 successes. Hmm. You can tell. You can tell, and it's probably recent, just because his reaction was a bit stark. It's either something that's been irritating him for decades, or something that's kind of just got him annoyed now. He reacts with irritation. He doesn't necessarily seem to agree with that sentiment, or seems to be dismissive of it. It's a reaction typically of someone who has been slighted. Not necessarily by you though, but by the person you're mentioning.
Gotcha. She will react to the expression by just like giving a slight downward lowering of the chin and kind of like bringing her eyes up, not to like challenge him, but just almost more like in a questioning way, like more like, oh, I wonder what the history is between them two.
Yeah.
Because the way Al-Qadir talked, it seemed like they were very, very close, or just very good brothers to each other. So yeah, there's some sus there, a little sus there, some question. That's all. That'll be plain to see. She's not gonna hide it. In case he wanted to ask.
I will take you at your word. Al-Qadir has a very interesting reputation around the city. He is one of our more active sorcerers, I suppose. Statira is often busy performing errands and duties for her sire and the viziers, so she rarely has time to directly aid us. Which is a shame. It would have been incredibly helpful when Tabra struck. That is no longer an issue. For the moment, the Sevilla is to be trusted, which they are not.
I've come to understand that the city was under siege by this Tabris and Herman, but it seems with upon my arrival, things have seemed to kind of work out. And she says with with her fingers kind of in quotation marks.
Hardly. It may seem that way based on first impressions, but, well, it's rarely the truth. Herman, supposed ringleader of this contested praxis, was recently destroyed. I was there. I was ready to strike him down, though the Toyota Temujin managed to do so before me. I simply remained in obfuscate for the majority of the battle. There was Giovanni there, quite I shall simply say he is generally the sort of man I would be encouraged to hunt. Alongside of the leader prince. Hammond's a grandchilder, and no one else has noticed, I suppose. The Pyramidgen struck down Hammond before the now sheriff Giovanni could claim him. Oh, but Tismisi that appeared. Of course, it is how typical of Tismisi to show up after a work has actually been done. But, who am I to judge? I was simply hiding in plain sight the entire time. I honestly wish for the weak and the unworthy to weep themselves out. Unfortunately, Hammond did a rather poor job of doing so. He got close. He managed to turn the Giovanni's servant on him. And, oh yes, the Bruja that was present as well, the innate. Had an odd looking spear. We caused them to turn on each other as well. Perhaps if he had if Margot had not been supplied by the usurpers, then Perhaps he would have succeeded and caused them all to kill each other.
At the mention of usurpers, you can actually she actually drops her arms across her chest, and she almost instinctively seems to go for a blade. Like it almost seems like
Yeah.
um she just gets this rather hawkish uh, glint to her eye when that's mentioned.
But Tremere we can get to in a moment. We have much to do concerning them. We've been reinforcing their presence here recently. But yes, ultimately Herman was destroyed. His blood, however, was not reclaimed. I believe Victoria do Primogen wished to make something of that, which intrigues me. The two individuals she cited in the process, I believe, are going to be quite vengeful at that fact. I would not be surprised if she turned up dead within the next month or so. This Giovanni appears to be possessed of many talents involving the magics of death, including being able to spontaneously appear from some sort of portal, led into some sort of I can only describe it as some sort of brainland. Uh, I did not see much of it, but it was decrepit, crumbling, devoid of life and color. I'm not sure if it was. I can merely speculate as to what it was.
What of our well, I was going to ask what of our sorcerers what do our sorcerers know of this magic?
This is out of their field of expertise. If I get to ask, I do wish to get into contact with Elder Lisa at some point, but she is often out of the city. She is monitoring the entire county, so she reports in from. She comes in from time to time, but you'll know when she comes in. Uh, I remember when I was in Telgorum, she was present. She is quite good at making an entrance. She has a very efficient way of traversing across the county. But I know little of her method. All I know is that she can get to places not even if you get to. But Statira is our main point of contact among the sorcerers. The Viziers mainly control the situation down here, although it has become increasingly tenuous over the past few months. Their politicking has not gained them all that much. And it has given me cause for concern whether we should be taking a more direct route. But well, when we try that, Harald can speak of that more wisely than I can. I will only say that I lived at the grace of the one I was sent to kill.
Tabris?
Mm-hmm. Akadir was leading a foray into the enemy's domain, which turned into an ambush, which turned into a slaughter. Two of our kind were killed. Kadir was left alive to send a message. Tavris wished to keep me alive out of a seeming sense of honor or remorse. I'm not sure which. But I believe the fact that I managed to significantly harm him and his respect in some sense. And now he is a pawn at the hands of another Cerebrian, which I find ironic. He has not been destroyed. In fact, the blood hunt on him has been rescinded at the pleas of another Cerebrian elder. But ultimately, Tavris must die sooner or later. He has destroyed honorable and earnest members of our clan in the pursuit of legitimate justice, not just from our clan's perspective, but also from the perspective of the domain.
It's a shame that we used to hunt demons with the Salubri, and the fact that one of their own has become a demon in his own way. Yes, I agree 100% that he needs to be judged and he needs to be reclaimed.
Self-righteousness does much to one's mind. Combine that with a constant need to project strength. Perhaps it was only a matter of time until they fell. But there is a lesson to be learned from their failure. And perhaps from our own inability here to prevent the rise of the usurpers that are taking their place. The prince is attempting to play a balancing act of keeping the usurpers and the Salubri and their own supporters from tearing at each other's throats, but it is not holding. I respect the attempt to keep peace, and perhaps if anyone could do it, it would be Ventrue. But ultimately, the differences between these two sides are irreconcilable.
Then perhaps it is time that we balance the scales in a particular way, mainly towards the Salubri. I understand that the Tremere are trying to bolster their numbers as well. Perhaps we need to start attacking their influences and begin crippling them to the point where they are no longer viable here in the city.
The viziers will be able to point you in the right direction in that regard. They're somewhat fragile, but they are very effective at moving pieces into place. I think perhaps in many ways it was the fact that they lacked the support of the sorcerers, the fact that there was only myself and my late child there in the city to assist them, that they weren't really able to project the power that they needed to in order to claim greater power. But the Sombra have been the greater political power in the city for some time now. Though, looking at some of their kin, you wouldn't expect it.
It is often the hidden knife that we most often look for that is usually the most dangerous.
Yes, and with the presence of several of the most powerful elders, including one very particular Methuselah in Antioch, there is only so much we can do about them. However, they have been one of the more stabilizing influences in the city, or at least the Seneschal has been. So perhaps it is worth keeping him intact for a moment at least. If he is, of course, rendered vulnerable, then perhaps that is an opportunity we can make use of. either us or the Viziers. But the usurpers, they've undergone a change in leadership. They had one of their own destroyed. I believe it was to cover up the fact that they were kidnapping gangrels in the domain, or just outside of it on a technicality, in order to turn them into gargoyles. They were working with Ravnos Scourge, now former Scourge. One that I intend to hunt down with your assistance. His son says. He was effectively scapegoated by the usurpers, and the gangrel weren't able to push hard enough to see the Tremere punished. Evidence of these kidnappings was somewhat unclear. It was true that the Scourge had held the gangrel for an unreasonable period of time, but it could not be discerned from their memories or from the invasive tactics of various other clans, including our own. As to whether they were to be turned. So, the usurpers had effectively cut off the one link that proved their malfeasance to the court, leaving only a very angry former Scourge who feels quite betrayed. I'm sure the former regent owed him a lot of boons, and I'm sure he's quite eager to find out who owes them now. A worthy assumption would be the current regent, but I suppose it can't be determined for sure.
Do we have any information where the previous Scourge is now?
I've been looking at his domain, and he has not been present for some time. He is known to travel a lot. He is tied to a band of raiders and slavers. She says that with a degree of disgust. They pillage undefended settlements in nearby villages within the county. Kidnap the healthiest, and often the youngest, and then sell them off within Odessa. Needless to say, he is a worthy target of our ire.
For that, I agree as well. Do you have any contacts with the underworld?
Let me double check to see if she does. Because this is stuff she's largely learned on her own. You could say it is where I'm actually most powerful, although no one would know it.
Can you say that again one more time?
Oh, she says, it is where I am most powerful in the city, although few, if any, know it. I run a group that has no name. We tend to like our caste, stick to the shadows until necessary. We don't claim territory, but we claim lives when necessary.
Very much mimics much of our own.
Hmm.
I can see how that is effective.
It is.
And if you have no territory, then nobody can really come looking for you. You're
Hmm.
and everywhere. You're everywhere and anywhere at one time. At least for all the person or anybody knows, if they do know.
Hmm. We have our own criteria for selecting our targets. Usually, we seek people out rather than people seeking us out. We know when somebody wants someone else dead, but we only perform the act if it is truly justified. It takes a great deal of provocation for us to act. Fortunately, we can afford to be picky and scarce. The niche of our business means that we are quite wealthy and powerful, and feared, even if you know of us. Those that do manipulate their own so that they do not cross our path. It is a rather equitable setup for us.
Hmm.
Yes. We are in effect a guild of assassins. Much like the clan I come from.
If anything, I could see seems very useful.
It is, as are my rather necessary ties to the Nosferatu as a result, who have not been seen in months.
Well, then that is very dire portents for us then, or at least the city.
Yes, I have had my own assets transported out of the city for the time being and shuffled around. I don't trust what is going on here. Something is stirring the mortal populace. There have been upsurges and hunters in the past. In fact, a rather infamous one occurred just about a year and a half ago. A small village called Erila was more or less a town full of them. But they didn't actually number that many, just a few dozen. They lacked the temporal ties in order to enforce their worldview. So ultimately, they were a localized threat. Even if the idea of a town full of witch hunters sounded threatening. Ultimately, the military burned their town to the ground, at the behest of, I believe, the former sheriff. But it appears our kind has become reckless again. The common folk appear to be militarizing, but not against the aristocracy. That is what is strange. Normally such activity is put down by the nobility swiftly and brutally.
Do you believe then that whoever is somebody from the nobility might be causing this?
I don't know. I don't have any real ties to the nobility. All I know is that the small folk of this city are being manipulated in a specific direction. It could be by one of our own kind, or it could be that it only has not become exponentially worse because of our kind. I cannot say. It is beyond my reach, but no doubt the Nosferatu know. The question is how to reach them. The last time a Nosferatu was seen was the Primogen himself in a war council meeting in how to deal with Herman. They have not been present since. Perhaps they did promise her assistance to the Prince, however, so they have likely been supplying her with information, which means there is some sort of trail that leads back to them, but through the Prince. Perhaps she could be bartered with. I would like to meet the Nosferatu again. I would like to know what in particular is about to happen and how we may avoid it. But I do believe it involves a violent mortal populace, which could be entirely manageable. Would be the first time Nosferatu disappeared over something that wasn't actually as severe as it was. But I don't believe any of us have reached our respective ages by taking chances.
No. As far as the mortal populace, has any particular mortal become more of the forefront or more popular in a more rapid fashion that we know of, or that you may know of by chance? And he kind of looks at the both of them.
We kind of look between each other, and Layla will just say, no. The Viziers, however, may have an idea. They're more connected than most of us. In fact, part of the reason I'm as connected as I am is because of them.
Let's see.
They are what allows my organization to act as such cloak and dagger. They cover up some of the more inopportune and unprofessional incidents.
Well then, I will see what I can do with the prince. I need to speak with her on a matter anyways. I will see about what I can barter with her to get to get to the Nosferatu. At least get some information.
Sounds good. If I may also speak with you further at some point, I would like for us to begin working on bringing down this corrupt Scourge, and perhaps finding a way to deal with this rather brazenly corrupt sheriff.
Is this the same Giovanni that put out the notice about being able to see everything we do?
Pardon?
The sheriff is Sebastian, right? I guess, or Bastion, or whatever.
Bastian,
Yeah. I guess she's asking, is this the same sheriff that made the declaration that he can basically see everything we can do? Because he made that declaration in his address to the city or the Canaanites.
So he claims, but he is a man desperate to project power.
If anything, he has proven some capability, especially if he can basically show up anywhere he wants to. We'll have to make sure that we get with the Viziers or the Sorcerers to at least make sure that our own kind cannot be stricken by such an opportunity or power.
Should be noted, this Giovanni has named his bodyguards hounds. Who are in turn fairly powerful, not undefeatable, far from it. In fact, I consider his spectral servants far more dangerous, for they are unseen. But his retinue of canine servants is formidable. Not as threatening as Tabris, but little is.
Well, then, it does seem that we have an agenda then. As far as the sheriff and all, we'll keep an eye on them and we'll exploit any opportunity we can to weaken them, if need be. Um, as far as the Scourge and Tabris, we will work on them as well, sooner than later. Though, as we are warriors, and what of our own clan in the state here? Is there any concerns with our own ranks?
His son considers if he wants to say something or not. Actually catches Lelia's attention as well. She kind of looks and was like, "Oh, what do you want to say?" Sort of like, she didn't expect anyone to speak. I recently acquired these two items. He will take from his from a fairly large pouch on his person. Two debitums. These were acquired from stragglers still loyal to Haman and his cause, Octave and the like. They were on the periphery of our domain, technically within it. My brother had sought to find some, but had wandered off on his own and found his way in the middle of an ambush that would have claimed his life. I say would have, because if I had not been predicting him to fail in such a fashion, I would not be there, but I was.
That does much to explain your reaction that you gave to me earlier when I mentioned him. Interesting.
Do not misunderstand. I do not wish to claim some false sense of superiority over my brother. There is no enmity there, but there is frustration. He was a liability. It's not the first time he has wandered blindly into an ambush. It is not the first time members of our clan have been put at risk because of it. And I have already made it clear to him that should such a situation occur again, I will not assist him. I had to destroy several Canaanites in order to protect him. It is only It is only because they were so young, and I have accelerated as an Assamite faster than most, not to again proclaim superiority, but I'd like to think I've proven myself quite capable. It is only because of these things that I was able to defeat them so swiftly without harm coming to myself. Of course, my brother still almost died. But then, that only occurred because he was not willing to fight his own battles. He must learn to fight them, he must learn to act as a sorcerer should, not wandering blindly into ambushes and trying to emulate us. He has the skills, he just needs to learn how to use them correctly. But I would be wary following his leads or advice. I would suggest reaching out to another as either a secondary source for confirmation or to look into it with somebody else, or at least with somebody else at your back. It is a harsh thing to say, but I cannot trust my brother's instincts.
Liabilities lead to accidents, and accidents lead to deaths. Your brother has caused quite a stir, enough that even the eldest back at Alamat has taken notice, which is part of the reason why I'm here, and why I ask. There is eyes here. We have drawn notice. If we have to, he will be judged.
I hope it does not come to that, and that he is able to realize his potential as a Marcus soon, because if not soon, I highly doubt whenever. And that will, as you say, it will not end well for him. He must progress past this block he seems to be under.
Unfortunately, or maybe fortunately for you, you are in the best position to let him know of his place. You are his brother after all. He will listen to you the most, even take it to heart.
I have let him know of his errors and what he must do to repair them. Hopefully he learns and listens, but, well, ultimately nothing can be guaranteed. We will see. I believe Edessa shall be his crucible. He has already almost died, well, several times. Then again, we all brush with death in this life if we live long enough, and he has a good few decades on him.
If I have your blessing, I will at least assist in small ways that I can. But I will take your advice to heart as far as trusting and verifying and having another watch my back when dealing with your brother.
If you wish, I will be there to watch your back, but yes, I will require his assistance anyway to deal with this scourge. Again, in spite of his instincts, his skill as a magus is not inconsiderable.
Yeah, he has proven that to me, and at least when I arrived here, and has provided me some assistance in that way.
Well, I suppose we have much work to do here. I'm surprised you do not sound so much so much more tired, good elder. You seem to have had a lot put on your plate. Suppose it is time we do a little bit of a palate cleanser. So yes, I will contact you, or Kadir will, at some point regarding this Scourge. In regards to the Salubri well and the usurpers, I will leave that to you and the good elder here. I have heard rumors that the lord of these usurpers is within the domain in response to the Salubri. Husan smiles. It's a pretty threatening smile. A fine prize if we could ever hope to drag him out of his, what did they call it, his damn chantry.
I, for one, would be up for that challenge. They all need to be reclaimed as far as I'm concerned.
We should be careful. I have heard his prowess far exceeds his age. And his rituals and magics alien even to many of our sorcerers. So I've had very little contact with him for good reason.
You are right. But we'll do as we always do. We will watch and we will listen and we will look for opportunities.
And end the game. He cannot stay within there forever, so we can afford to take our time. We are, of course, immortal. But if that is all, I would request from both my elders permission to leave. I have some wet work to do.
Good hunting, comrade.
Good hunting, dear sister. I hope to see you again on the field. And with that, he will, like mist, fade away.
And Khadija will look to Layla as well and simply say, I look forward to working with you, good elder, dear sister, fellow daughter of Hakim. Do you need anything of me before I leave?
I would like a reliable way to contact you.
She will hand over a man, what would they use it for contact? Man, it's not like you use cell phone. I guess she'll just hand over some information. She'll also say, I do have a hawk that I keep Gould to ferry messages and act as a second pair of eyes in the sky, so to speak. If you can grab its attention, you can give it any message to me, written at least. Otherwise, I will be setting up domain here, probably someplace here. I don't know yet. Player doesn't know yet. Character would know. Sorry. I'll be setting up domain here. I will be me and my servants run a. We sell horses. We breed and sell horses.
I see. Useful. Then I'll look to the skies. How to say this? You be careful around Husan. He is well, less than can. You can trust him, but his demeanor belies his darker moments.
If there's one thing I've learned about who we are, we always have moments of darkness within us. After all, it is something that we, harness for ourselves against the others. And it's also a way to deal with how we deal with the emotions and the actions in which we take against the others. Sometimes um, it does get out of hand, but he does seem a bit impetuous and too eager, a bit maybe eager to uh, prove himself in some way. But I will take.
He's. Oh, apologies, I talked over you.
No, go ahead.
Okay. Just simply say, overeager, I think, is the best word. I don't think he necessarily has anything to prove, but rather it is strange for me to say, but perhaps he believes a little bit too much in Hakim's edicts.
Hmm.
Well, we have seen what such a sense of righteousness can do to a man. We've seen what it has done to the Salubri.
Unfortunately, the Salubri, or at least Tabarus, failed. Hakim, his words do need to be taken to heart. After all, he is our father. But he also preached that we must balance these things as well. That is why he instilled in us patience.
It is why we have been given time. I think perhaps the greatest flaw among us warriors is that we forget that Hakim was not, in fact, a warrior. He was. He was also a scholar. He was also a sorcerer.
And it's almost like it's kind of like life, is it not? There's phases to it all. Hakim is, or not Hakim, Hassan seems to be in his warrior phase, so to speak. But he must learn to temper himself with other things as well, like knowledge and the pursuit of it, and how humbling it is and enriching it is. Once he does that, then you might actually see a change.
I suppose we'll see if his brother can teach him such temperance. Or if the worst of Husan says comes to light. I hope not. But I suppose that is neither here nor there. We have beaten that particular horse to death. It was good to meet you, Khadija. I hope to see you soon.
Of course.
Again, given the power of Tabris, I'll need your help in bringing him down when that time comes to pass. It will be soon. I doubt he'll take Herman's death lying down, bloodbond or not.
I look
His
forward.
road dictates it.
She nods. I look forward to working with you, Elder.
prize, Honored Ancilla, and she will get up and she will vanish.
Yep. Khadijah herself will cover her face again and look to the ghoul, nod to him, and then vanish as well.
And with that, I think we can end the scene as all respective parties separate to tend to their tasks, to their missions and objectives. And now we shall end, we'll end the scene. Thank you, player, for playing. Thank you all for watching. We'll see you all next time. Bye bye.